Thank you for joining us for this look at the best original reporting from KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Coming up in this newscast, settling into a new home. Meet the very first person to benefit from a new local investment to boost Black home ownership. Hunger on campus. We'll have a look at a food pantry dedicated to serving the growing need at our community colleges. And protecting animals from COVID-19. The San Diego Zoo tells us what they're learning when it comes to protecting their wide range of species. We start with a special KPBS investigative series and a warning: this story has graphic content. KPBS reporter Claire Trageser looked at records where police shootings occurred in San Diego. Those records reveal a vast disparity, with far more shootings happening in places where more people of color live.
In February 2014, San Diego Police Department officer Cristel Miranda was serving a search warrant at Henry Luis Gonzalez's home. She saw him pull out what she thought was a shiny object in his waistband, so she shot him 3 times. It turned out to be rings on his fingers. In May 2016, Tongsoon Vilaysain was driving away from a house police said was used by the Oriental Killer Boys gang. San Diego police officers chased him in their squad car and then shot and killed him.
You guys all good?
All good. Show me your hands!
Driver!
That same month, members of the department's gang unit were doing surveillance at a known gang house on Skyline Drive and ended up in a shootout with the suspects. This time, no one was killed. These were among 7 police shootings over 6 years that happened in the 92114 zip code in Encanto. The cluster of cases in Encanto fits into a larger citywide trend. That's according to a KPBS analysis of almost 150 San Diego Police Department cases in which officers used force that led to significant injuries or death. Almost 70% of the use of force incidents occurred south of Interstate 8, and almost a quarter were in Southeast San Diego. In addition to Encanto, the zip codes with the greatest number of shootings were Logan Heights, Downtown, and City Heights.
Anybody who lives in those communities know that the police tend to react differently than they do in communities that are north of the 8, or into communities that have less Black and brown residents, and communities that actually are wealthier.
Khaled Alexander, with Pillars of the Community, isn't surprised by the numbers.
If they were to treat people in La Jolla, or if they were to treat people in Claremont or Coronado the same way, there would be immediate repercussions to their actions.
Police shootings almost never happen in San Diego County's mostly white and wealthy enclaves. Consider that in a 15-year period, the combined total in La Jolla, Poway, and Rancho Santa Fe was just 3. That's fewer than half as many as there were in Encanto alone, according to the KPBS analysis. Officials from the San Diego Police Department declined an interview request for this story. In the past, Chief David Nislight has said there are more arrests in communities of color, but that doesn't mean it's discrimination.
Disparities are going to exist because everything in society doesn't happen along the demographic line. And until that happens, you're going to have disparities. And that's why it's important to understand that disparity does not equal discrimination.
But Alexander says higher crime statistics in these zip codes don't justify more use of force.
The idea that there's more crime in Southeast San Diego than there is in La Jolla or other communities is a myth. What you have in Southeast San Diego and those communities are a larger police presence looking for crime.
Stay down, police! Anyone in the car, come on now!
The fear factor among police officers must also be taken into account. So says Ann Rios, a defense attorney.
I really think that what we need to be looking at is, how do police view people in these areas? Do they view them as dangerous? Do they already pre-label them as gang members, as violent? Are they scared?
In Encanto, 5 of the 7 people shot by police were described as gang members or associated with gangs before they were shot, according to the police department records. In the past 2 years, San Diego County District Attorney Summer Stephan rolled out a de-escalation training program that includes implicit bias training. She says it's vital.
That is also dangerous because you're now not checking to make sure, do they have a weapon? What is their, what's their access? What are they doing? And then bias against a group is also coloring your ability to make intelligent decisions.
But for activists like Rios, there has already been more damage to San Diego's South of 8 communities than one de-escalation training program can fix.
This is a public health crisis that is happening to people and in areas that I love and live in. And I think that that is incredibly scary. Folks are scared of the police. They are scared of living in their own neighborhoods.
Claire Trageser, KPBS News.
That's the first of 3 special reports this week from Claire Trageser. All of them can be streamed online at kpbs.org. We also have a map that shows you where these shootings took place. Health leaders are keeping a close eye on a new variant of the COVID-19 virus. So far, there are just a handful of known cases in the U.S., including California. John Carroll shows us the unique way scientists at UC San Diego are looking for the Omicron variant.
It's something we all do every day, and you could be forgiven for not giving a thought to where that wastewater goes after you flush. But at UC San Diego, a group of scientists thinks about it a lot.
So we've been regularly collecting wastewater from multiple sites across campus on a daily basis for a while now.
The wastewater is collected by these contraptions at various points across campus. As Dr. Lawrence says, they've been monitoring for COVID at UC San Diego for a while now, but now they're looking for the Omicron variant.
What's different is what we look for in the results. And so, for example, the Omicron variant has a deletion in the spike protein gene.
When the virus, in whatever variant, shows up, people who live or work in the building it came from are notified and asked to get a nasal swab test. The advantage to this method is that people don't have to do anything until a positive sample turns up.
So we think that we picked up cases that way. We also, as you might know, were able to pick up, say, the Delta variant earlier than we saw in individual testing.
UC San Diego also works with the San Diego Unified School District, which collects samples from numerous schools and sends them to the lab for testing, casting a wide net to detect any COVID outbreaks, but now, especially Omicron. John Carroll, KPBS News.
COVID isn't just a problem for humans. As we've seen during the pandemic, animals are at risk. We're still seeing cases pop up at zoos across the country, including 3 snow leopards that died in Nebraska. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman met with local zookeepers for an update on how their animals are being protected.
The past 20 months have really been quite interesting for us.
Back in January, the San Diego Zoo saw its first coronavirus cases.
We had the first reported case in gorillas, but since then there have been zoos around the world that have had positive cases, not only in gorillas and tigers, but in cougars. Snow leopards seem to be particularly susceptible to the virus.
Dr. Nadine Lamberski is Chief Conservation and Wildlife Health Officer at the San Diego Zoo. She's been leading efforts to protect animals from the same virus that's killed millions of humans.
We know from scientific studies that carnivores, particularly cats, big cats, and primates are extremely susceptible to this virus.
Between the zoo's main location and their safari park, over 20 cases have been confirmed in animals. Staff usually are not able to get a nasal swab, so they test fecal matter. Lamberski says sick animals have symptoms that are similar to humans.
Some animals just go off food. Some are lethargic. Some develop a cough. Some develop a fever. Some develop all those things on different days. And each case has been a little bit unique. But we're very fortunate that all of the wildlife in our care that have contracted the virus have fully recovered.
Cases are believed to come from infected staff who are asymptomatic working closely with animals.
Oh, that's true.
Over the summer, 2 snow leopards tested positive.
And it was a very, very tense time, not knowing which way they were going to go. And this was prior to them being fully vaccinated.
The zoo was one of the first to begin using a COVID-19 vaccine approved for animals. Since the beginning of the year, more than 250 high-risk animals have gotten their COVID vaccinations here at the zoo. That includes all of the big cats, including that leopard up there. Lamberski says they have used all of their supply, but if more became available, booster doses could be considered.
Particularly because of the new variants that are coming out. And we would want to give our animals the best chance to fight off that infection so that they can have the best lives possible.
Zoo staff wear face coverings and try to limit their time spent indoors around animals. There have been reported breakthrough infections in some that were already vaccinated, but their symptoms were mild.
Look, a monkey.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Some of the conversations from KPBS Midday Edition are among our most popular stories this week at kpbs.org, and that includes our coverage of COVID-19. Maureen Kavanaugh spoke to an infectious disease specialist at UC San Diego about the Omicron variant. Midday also caught up with the San Diego band Baby Bushka about their return to the stage this weekend following the loss of one of their bandmates. And it was a significant week for reproductive rights in America, with abortion access challenged at the Supreme Court. We likely won't know until June if justices will allow a highly restrictive law in Mississippi to stay in place. Legal experts say there's a chance the conservative majority will wipe out the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling entirely. Kitty Alvarado talked with local advocates for reproductive rights.
Outside the courthouse, protests. Inside, justices heard arguments challenging a 2018 Mississippi law that makes most abortions illegal after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Chief Justice John Roberts clarified what upholding the Mississippi law could mean.
Your first question, and the only one on which we granted review, was whether all pre-viability prohibitions on elective abortions are unconstitutional.
In 1973, Roe v. Wade set a precedent that made abortions legal nationwide. This current case asks if abortion should be a state issue.
I do think it would be overruling Roe versus Wade, regardless of whether the Supreme Court says that explicitly or indirectly. It would be an overruling of that decision.
Maggie Schroeder is with the Lawyers Club of San Diego. She says this decision will go beyond states' rights and the state of Mississippi.
There are at least 20 states currently that have restrictive abortion legislation pending and sort of ready to go. And what we can expect is those states will enact similar or even more restrictive abortion legislation.
During oral arguments, Mississippi Solicitor General Scott Stewart had harsh words for Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood.
Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey haunt our country. They have no basis in the Constitution. They have no home in our history or traditions.
Dara DeGiorno Johnson, the president of Planned Parenthood Pacific Southwest, says 1 in 4 women have had an abortion, and most people know someone who has.
It really saddens me that if you're being told when to choose and how you're supposed to start or plan your family, no one should get in between that decision. That should be a decision between you and the people in your family that love and care for you, but certainly not the government.
Sarah Becerra, the president of the San Diego's Women's March, says women have been fighting for their rights for generations, and this case shows the need to continue their mission.
If we're not fighting for our rights every day, if we're not fighting for our democracy and our ability to make these choices, to have this autonomy, it's a very, very fragile thing that can go away. So let's keep fighting together.
The Supreme Court is expected to rule on this case next summer. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
And we want to thank those of you who supported KPBS and other local nonprofits during Giving Tuesday. There's a lot of need out there, and that extends to our colleges. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has some eye-opening stories about those going hungry while trying to earn a degree.
Hunger is on the move among California's community college students. The state confirms half of them, 50%, don't have the money or resources to buy enough food.
I have some more mashed potatoes up here.
18-year-old CJ Pollock is a freshman at San Diego Mesa College. He moved here from San Jose with plans to keep playing soccer and begin his education toward a career in civil engineering. Just before Thanksgiving, he joined hundreds of fellow students lined up in their cars in one of Mesa's parking garages. This is the third annual Pack the Pantry food drive, a community collaboration between the college, the San Diego Food Bank, and California Coast Credit Union, established by teachers in 1929 to improve education. Never expecting in 2021 students would be going hungry.
That's a problem because what happens is these students have the potential of, dropping a class, missing class, or even not achieving their academics to the potential that they normally might.
CJ is grateful to be able to fill up his car with so many cans and boxes.
This helps me because then I don't have to go grocery shopping, and then I can also afford rent with a little bit of help. But this is it's a lot of food, and it's going to help me in the long run, so I'm able to eat.
Go ahead and grab utensils, got bread.
Mesa College also hosted an early Thanksgiving dinner for students who could use an extra meal. Hunger insecurity is happening on four-year university campuses, too. The University of California reports 44% of its students often go hungry, and 14% of them don't have stable housing. That percentage is even higher for community college students.
You live in apartment, student housing?
No, I'm currently homeless.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Alex Montez represents one of those statistics, and he is determined to turn it into his success story. He's an immigrant from Colombia, trying to find housing through the San Diego LGBT Community Center. At the moment, he uses Mesa's Basic Needs Resource Center, called The Stand.
I usually come here, I check what kind of snacks they have,
Johanna Alaman is the Stand coordinator who also comforts students when they need it most.
They don't have anybody who cares, anybody who will help them. And so listening to those stories can get emotionally overwhelming. But we do everything we can. And most of them leave feeling at least that the college loves them.
All your canned food goods, anything from canned vegetables to canned fruits.
At Cal State San Marcos, they packed a new pantry. The ribbon was just cut on the school's student Cougar Pantry, which is now 1,200 square feet, filled with food, both non-perishable and frozen. There are diapers and hygiene products for struggling students who are parents, all provided by Feeding San Diego, the San Diego Food Bank, and local grocery stores as another solution to the problem.
Having access to a meal or ingredients that can put together a meal. That way you're not stressing over having to worry about what to eat, while on top of that having to worry about different stressors that come from being a student.
That's food for thought as Alex Montez begins an education for his future career.
Probably develop or help develop some of the new generation of bionic arms and limbs overall. That's probably what I want to achieve.
Food feeds students while nourishing their dreams. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Hi, I'm John Decker. Thank you for watching Evening Edition on KPBS. Now more than ever, local news is essential to our democracy, and KPBS is committed to delivering local news in San Diego and the Imperial Valley. Evening Edition, along with our other services on radio, digital, and podcasts, is how our news team delivers the news to you. How can we do it? With a passion for accurate storytelling and a commitment to excellence in journalism. But most importantly, we do it with your support, our members, our viewers. If you've already donated to KPBS, then we thank you very much for your continued support. If you haven't had a chance to donate, now is a great time to show how much you appreciate the news we deliver. So please go online and choose a level, pick a gift at kpbs.org, or call or text DONATE at 1-800-576-5727, and thank you.
Little Italy is known to draw a crowd, especially during the holidays. It's a desirable place, but not many people can afford to live in the downtown neighborhood. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen tells us how the state is looking at some underused blocks nearby to build more affordable housing.
The state-owned lots just outside Little Italy currently house an aging office building, 2 dilapidated vacant buildings, and parking lots. Earlier this month, the state put out a call to developers interested in building affordable housing and other amenities on the sites. Stephen Russell, head of the nonprofit San Diego Housing Federation, says the large size of the lots makes for endless possibilities that could include childcare or a new park.
What they've done is created a laboratory for experimentation. The sector, the affordable housing sector here in town, is the most creative set of developers there are because of the challenges we constantly face.
The state's Request for Qualifications, or RFQ, puts an emphasis on sustainability. Russell says that could spark cutting-edge ideas like high-rise buildings made out of reinforced timber, which can lower construction costs and the building's carbon footprint.
So those are techniques that are not being used widely right now, that someone may in order to prove the point and to get the extra points on the RFQ, may stretch themselves to try some experiments they wouldn't otherwise try.
The state hopes to select a development team by next May. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Home prices are forcing a lot of people to reconsider where they can afford to live, and that has an impact on our neighborhoods. Next week, our race and equity reporter Christina Kim is hosting a KPBS community conversation about gentrification in San Diego. But first, we want to know what that means to you. Take part by telling your story at kpbs.org. That's where you can also sign up for the free online event that's happening Wednesday night at 6 p.m. A new program is helping Black homeowners get into San Diego's competitive housing market. Christina Kim caught up with the first grant recipient as he settles into his new home.
All right, cool.
Tyshawn Cook has big plans for his newly purchased 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo in Spring Valley.
I'm in the middle of renovating everything, so the whole kitchen is going to get completely moved and destroyed. So the kitchen's actually going to come all the way out against this whole yellow wall, which is why it's not painted.
The 23-year-old is confident in his vision for his new home. Right now, his room is one of the few spots he's fully furnished and decorated with some of his favorite anime art. But he wants a more modern kitchen, and he's working with his dad to remove the carpet and replace it with new flooring.
Probably once a week, if not once every other week, definitely going to Home Depot, as he said. Now, that's something that obviously beforehand I wasn't thinking about, but happens. I mean, again, I'm in the process of renovating, so consistent. If I'm not going to Home Depot, I'm ordering things on Amazon.
Cook is an SDSU college student and Navy reservist, in addition to working full-time as a calibration technician. Now that he's also a homeowner, it puts him among a very small group of Black San Diegans. Only around a quarter of all Black people in San Diego City own a home. Meanwhile, more than half of all white and Asian San Diegans are homeowners. And the home ownership rate for Black people is even lower in places near Spring Valley, like La Mesa and El Cajon. That's according to a newly released study by the Urban Institute, a nonprofit research organization focused on economic policies.
The total amount of housing wealth held by white households held by white homeowners is $129 billion. For Black homeowners, it's less than $5 billion.
Michael Neal was the lead researcher on the Urban Institute study. He says San Diego doesn't just have a racial gap in home ownership, but in home values as well.
Black homeowners on average, their home value is $610,000, about a third less than the average value of a white-owned home.
Neal says historic housing and employment discrimination, coupled with longstanding wage gaps and rising housing costs, are at the heart of these persisting inequities. It's why a group of nonprofits and San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher's office launched the San Diego Black Homebuyers Program last August. The goal? To expand more economic opportunities for Black San Diegans, like Cook, who was the first recipient of the program. And, as Supervisor Nathan Fletcher first said at the launch, to try and level the playing field.
Because we have such an obligation to ensure access to the American dream. There's no guarantee of equality of outcome, but there is supposed to be equality of access.
Now that the program is set up, it needs to expand and help more families, says Ricardo Flores. He's the executive director of LISC, the organization that administers the program's funds.
We've created the program, we've created the vehicle, we've got mortgages attached to it. Now we just need to be able to provide more.
He says that can happen without too big of an investment.
And the great thing is, so for $1 million, you can get 25 families home ownership opportunities, which is obviously going to change their lives indefinitely.
I like the balcony/patio.
And that's something that's already happening for Cook. He used the nearly $50,000 grant to pay his closing costs. Now he's using the money he saved to add value and equity back into his home. He hopes his condo will jumpstart his ability to build wealth and take care of the generations to come.
All I know is that I wanted to give my children a better childhood. Not that mine was bad, but in order for me to do that, one of the things that I want to be able to do is never tell my children no because of money, ever. Like, if I tell them no, it's going to be because I said no, not because, oh, my account's telling me no, you know?
For now, he's enjoying his home's scenic views of pink sunsets, and he's already planning on having his siblings visit and stay with him, something that wasn't possible until just last month. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
We hope that you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us.